Ralph. Oh, sorry. Chaf Ralph. Chaf. Sorry. Maushi, okay. What should he get malchus by when he eats when the person eats not korban pesach? We're talking about here chametz, of course, but chametz which is in the form of beer or some other type of tarovis chametz, a mixture of chametz. Rabbi Yirmiyah b'shem Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Lo b'shem Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Lo we haven't had in a while. Rabbi Lo named Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said afdukos ain't a loke. You don't even get malchus. You know why? The Tani we learned. The Lieberman throws in here a girsa, which is not really necessary, but it helps. He throws in the words that milsa de Rav Amara aflil koseina loke. We'll learn from Rav that you don't get malchus on drinking beer or such like. The Tani we learned how chametz borur chayav kores. If it's clearly chametz, you get kores. Vali ruvo. If it's a mixture of chametz sofek arboim, you get 40 lashes. Rav said, interpreting this price of Rav Omar, what's the tarovis chametz we're discussing here? Zesiur. It's when you have a dough which shows signs of chametz. It's getting cracked a little bit. So that's the tarovis chametz in which you get malchus. It's not fully chametz yet, but has obviously chimutz mixed into it, and you get malchus. So says the Gemara. V'omar, which is like the Yerushalmi has all over. V'yomar, let him say Zakuta Chabavli v'Sheich Ramadi. Why is he saying Tarovis Chametz is this wild case of, not wild, but obscure case of where the dough starts cracking? Tell us in a straight out case. Kutach, the Babylonian porridge, or Sheich Ramadi, the beer. It must be that he holds they don't get malchus in those cases. You don't get malchus in tarovis chametz, where the chametz is part and parcel of the substance, which of the dough, shiur, as opposed to a case where you have a little bit of chametz mixed in to sell a lot of something else, such as the Babylonian porridge, where the little pieces of bread, or the beer, where they're little trace amounts of barley. So it must be that the tarovis chametz yields must be far more substantial. And in fact, the Tosfos Rid brings down that the Rambam paskins like this. Rambam paskins that in order to get malchus on Pesach, you need to have in tarovis chametz, you need to have a kazayis b'chtei achilas pras. Not in time, but in the consistency. The consistency in the mixture has to be a kazayis in every pras, meaning a ratio of 1 to 6 or 1 to 8. Of the mixture has to be actual chametz, and not just some tarovis which is much lesser proportion than that. So that tarovis chametz, you don't get chametz. Don't get malchus. Amar Bun Bar Kahana. Bun Bar Kahana gave another interpretation of the brisa. Kumi Rabbi Lo, I said in front of Rabbi Lo, Tipater b'chametz u'matzah shenisarvu. He said, maybe the tarovis chametz which you get malchus on, and it's still not sheich ramadi. It's not the beer or the porridge, but maybe it is still where chametz and matzah got mixed together. Chametz and matzah shenisarvu got mixed together. So that's the tarovis chametz in which you get malchus. So it says, no, I don't like that. Rabbi Yosa said, Kosh Yusal Adod Rabbi Bun Bar Kana. I asked that which Rabbi Bun Bar Kana said. Manaka, what are you talking about? Im b'sheruba chametz. If the majority, the mixture is chametz, chayav kores. You're dealing with a rov and miutz here of opposite things, chametz versus matzah. So if the majority is of a mixture is chametz, so that's the matzah's bata barov. What is it? It's chametz, right? So you get kores, not malchus. And if on the other hand, im b'sheruba matzah, if the majority matzah, so also bata barov midaraisa, yitzir midei chametz pesach. So hypothetically, on a daraisa level, of course, you yitzir chiv of matzah with it. Of course, midabana and chametz is also b'mashu. Midaraisa should be bata barov. So that can't be the case in which we're talking about malchus, because either they're there, midaraisa is either kores or matzah, and there can't be something in between. Let's try another teretz. Rabbi Shua bar Yitzchak, Tana Rabbi Yeshua Unya, whoever that is, Rabbi Yeshua Unya said, the case where you get malchus is sheyesh b'chametz, a mixture of chametz, ve'en b'kazayis, but there isn't a kazayis. If there's no kazayis, how do you get malchus? So he says, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon kol shul malchus. We don't pass Rabbi Shimon, of course. Rabbi Shimon sheet, however, appears primarily malchus, as you see on the side. Rabbi Shimon holds that there's no shiur in order to get malchus, even on less than a kazayis to get malchus. So this is going like Rabbi Shimon. Our Brisa says in Tarovis Chametz you get Malkus. It's not regular Tanoim. Regular Tanoim hold you don't get Malkus on Tarovis Chametz. It's only Rabbi Shimon who says that even less than Kazais you get Malkus. So in Tarovis, despite the fact less than Kazais you get Malkus.
This kosher Malkus is not limited to Chametz.
No, any cheeseburgers, right? Any love. Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak, B'Shem Rab, both said the name Rab. Kedera Shabisha Ba Moda. Now Moda, nobody knows what it is. So several gersos here. The Mashbiach changes it to Modai, meaning beer, Persian the median beer, which is a Taroivus Chametz. Lieberman doesn't like that. He says something similar, but it's not quite the same. He says that it's some sort of also a tavshil, some mixture of some dish which has a mixture of chametz in it. Now the Or Sameach though, he changes the girsa to chamira, which is mamish chametz. Chamira is like we say on kol chamira v'chamira, right? So in any event, there's a tremendous kula in Yerushalmi, which is what bothers everybody. So this is a pot which you cook chametz. Lo yivashu ba me'osamin. You cannot cook chametz again. Well, you cannot cook chametz or matzah, meaning anything of that type. Let's say you cooked chametz matzah balls before Pesach, no bread kugel type thing. So on Pesach you can't cook in it matzah because it's min b'mino, it's not butter. But hamimin acher mutter, to cook some other type of food in that pot is mutter, even on Pesach. Uvad lacher shloshet tafshir, as long as you cook three other things in the middle. So let's say you cook before Pesach in a pot matzah ball, chametz matzah balls, and then you cooked soup, rice, assuming that it's kosher Pesach, and potatoes, right? So then right afterwards you can cook in it matzah for Pesach. So the Lieberman is bothered that the Yerushalmi should have such a tremendous kula. So he says he brings on the gears of the Itur. The Itur has gears that says that it's all about the issue of using the pot after Pesach. That it shouldn't be chametz overlove of Pesach. So Pesach itself you can use it, but if you use it 3 times something else, and after Pesach, it's not chametz overlove of Pesach, and you can use it again without having cleaned it out in any other way. But the pashtus in Yerushalmi is that that even on Pesach you can use the pot for whatever you want as long as you cook 3 other things in the interim.
Why 3 times?
Well, we had it already before. We met. If you want to conjure something for Pesach, a glass, so you fill it up 3 times, or leave it for 3 days filled with water. It's not that the 3 necessarily does things, but Chazal always said do things in sets of 3. That's a general principle throughout Chazal. 3s establish chazaka, 3s establish patterns, 3s already, 3s make things definitive. So you ask me, could 1 be enough? By tefillah, for example.
If I was in Ben Yomo, I would have said, all right, that makes sense.
No, but Ben Yomo obviously would be an alternate heter, which we're not using here. We're not using heter Ben Yomo. But that ain't no Ben Yomo. But the thing is that another good example is tefillah. A woman, when she goes to mikvah, is tovel 3 times. Why should she tovel 3 times? She must be tovel once, right? But in order out of 3, mitzvah 1 is good. So to here, I would say the same thing. Out of 3, mitzvah 1 cooking was complete. That's what I would say. That's the same type of idea. Okay. Kashem shubat al she'eno mino, kachi bat al mino. So says I understand why after the 3 cycles in the middle you can only cook eno mino, cook the same min. What's the difference? Cook kosher Pesach matzah balls now. So it says no min ma'ora mino lasor. Min is a language used in the Bavli choser v'nimur, meaning that min b'mino the Yerushalmi holds is eno batel, and therefore if there's additional chumrah to use mino afterwards, so if it came into contact with some mashu which was still left in the pot, so then min b'mino is not batel and it would be aser. So therefore it's a chumrah that after the 3 times, the 4th time when you cook something kosher Pesach, you should dafka make eno mino, so eno mino is mevatel, whatever might perhaps be left after those 3 time cycle are over.
Although the 3 things that you're cooking, the 3 cycles, you're cooking eno mino.
Well, what? True.
They're still worried about.
But they're still worried even after the third time. Yeah. Okay. They're still.
What strikes me about Rav's statement is in contrast to Shmuel's statement, I forgot where, that he says he threatens the pot makers before Pesach unless the price goes down. He's going to say you're allowed to use klicheres even, the chumstick pots.
Yeah. But you had that thing in the Bavli. It was in Yerushalmi. I don't remember
It was not Yerushalmi. It was in the Bavli.
It's Bavli,
I just
okay.
don't remember where. So I don't know. It seems like on its face, Rav is saying really the opposite of what Shmuel said. Because Shmuel was saying it's obviously really usher. And I don't know.
He's being killed.
Absolutely. But it's more of a
no. But if anything, it's the same. I don't know if I agree with you. Because Shmuel is saying there that it's mutter really, just we're machmer to use new pots. And so to Rav saying also the same thing. It's mutter really. We're machmer to use new pots. By the way, in the Israeli army, in most army camps, they do not have kosher Pesach pots. They use all these heterim in kashering pots for Pesach. They end up in yoimo and cooking other things in between.
Klicheres pots.
No, not klicheres. No, not k'dei kach. But
Metal.
Right, but it's impossible to kasher it properly because they don't have separate pots. So we're just so machmir. So I don't know. I think Shmuel and Rav are both coming to say that the baseline halacha is lenient. I don't know. I would say they're both being lenient in that respect. Okay. Says Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zafti, Rabbi Avo mefaki letochnai. Rabbi Avo used to command the people who grind the grain, the lo meitan kupaya ilain al ilain, not to put sacks one on top of each other. The lo yartchan, that they shouldn't get warm b'yachman, and as a result ferment and become chametz. Achina my papa azal lei legabi techunaya. Rabbi Yechina Bar Papa used to go to the grinders to be mashgiach himself. Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Bun tochan leitzaraf. Now everybody gives a different shot on what this word means. The Karbaneda explains that he used to go to jewelers, tzarfim, or jewelers, to use their grinders, which he used to grind gold and silver because he didn't trust the flour grinders from the rest of the year to kasher out properly for Pesach. So he used to use the grinders, which are normally used for metal, in order to grind this grain for Pesach. That's the
So that's where the name Hatzorfim comes.
Hatzorfim is from Sud, yeah. Right, the chain. Right, means a jeweler. Yeah. The Pnei Moshe says that he used to grind little by little in order to make sure that it was kosher, and then Tzoraf he used to combine them together. The Mashbiach says, the wildest shot I ever saw in the Mashbiach, I think. Mashbiach says he was mitzaref a minion to go grind. We grind the matzah meal with a minion. I don't know exactly what the minion does. Lieberman brings down. He actually brings down the Shari Torah Eretz Yisrael, which is a sefer on the Yerushalmi, which says that it's a typo. It should say Tochan le kol tzorkei. Tochan le tzorkei. In other words, he would grind the wheat for his own use and not allow anybody else to grind the wheat for him. So nobody knows exactly what it should have said there, but that's various different interpretations. Rabbi Avun Harei Tuchnai. Rabbi Avun used to tell I'm going to learn this like Lieberman, which is a fascinating interpretation. Rabbi Avun used to tell the grinders, Meitan to put, it changes this to titraton, which is a revius. Tetra is a fourth. So a titraton demoy, a revius of water, begin midaya in each measure of grain, and this should be umisnavneh, and mix it up arba zimnin 4 times. In other words, he holds a very interesting thing. He brings it down from some Rishon, I forget who, the Itur, that the Yerushalmi holds it's a mitzvah also to moisten the grain of which you're going to grind for matzah. Even though we don't anymore, of course we don't moisten nowadays because then it could start fermenting. But the Yerushalmi holds, according to Ita, that there's a din ushmartem samatzos, which means you have to put them in a danger that they could become chametz and preserve them that they don't become chametz. So therefore, he's telling them how to make the grain moist for the purpose of Pesach by putting in a very little water in a large amount of grain and then turning it over and over again, and hopefully that will not be enough to start the process in a way which is going to make it too difficult for you to be shomer it. It's an interesting shot. Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Monachadamar Bizvin Shari. When you have grain for Pesach, one said you're allowed to put it down on grass because grass is not that wet. Matnona also, but on mud you can't put it down because mud is wetter. The other said the exact opposite. Even he who said it's permissible to put it on top of grass, only beloktam shesho somehow, only dry grass which has been harvested or cut. Actually, I don't know if it has to be harvested and cut. Only grass which is in the afternoon, after 6 hours. Why? The next word should be lama. Why? The talafai can be known by this time the afternoon comes, so the dew is already dried up. It's gone away from them. So in the morning you can't put the grain on grass because it's not dry enough to prevent it from fermenting.
Well, it says the grass was cut, right?
Not necessarily.
What's the word beloktan then?
Oh, good point. I skipped that word. Yeah, I guess it is grass which was cut and it's drying. It's actually has dried till the afternoon. Right, beloktam sheishos mal. Good point. Sorry, I apologize. Okay, halacha base. You have a mixing pot which has cracks, and in the cracks you have dough. So, if there's enough dough to make a kazayis in one place, chayav levayer. Now this is obviously tough old dough, right? It's really adheres to the mixing pot, the mixing bowl. But if it's more kazayis in one spot, you have to get rid of it. If it's less than kazayis, bottom yuto, it is negated. It's the truth of the vituma as well. If you're makbid upon it, it's chotzetz, it's chatzitza. Meaning, and you can't toivel the keli with this hard dough on it, even though it's been there for a long time. If however you want the dough to remain there, then hareu karev becomes part and parcel of the mixing bowl, and you can toivel with the dough there. Patik hacheresh, silent dough. Now, the way the Yerushalmi interprets it means if you tap on it, it doesn't make noise. So imyesh kayotzibo, and therefore you can't tell if it became chometz or not. I guess if you tap on it and it's hard, so it means it's not chometz. If you tap on it and it's soft, so it's a danger. It's chometz even if you don't see other signs of chometz, and that's why it's not making noise. So imyesh kayotzibo, if you sheich means if you have dough made at the same time, which is ready chometz for sure, harezo aser. So too the silent dough is also aser as well. Now, Chabrai b'shem Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Simon b'shem Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, "Beniklav kulo ka'achas." But I'm going to learn this whole story, by the way, like the Mashbiach. Actually, more or less like the Mashbiach. This is only talking about where does all the dough, the hard dough, adhering to the mixing bowl, where is it all considered to be a one unit when you can peel it all as one and create a kazayis? However, if there's a little bit here and a little bit there, and if you peel it, it doesn't make a kazayis together, because you have to peel separate amounts, so then it's not considered to be a full kazayis. Akdulach, that's true where it's dry, because then you can peel it off. What about yavish? What about where it's moist, because then you can peel it off? What about yavish? What about if it's dry? If it's dry, you can't even peel it off. So me'achash iloyelach would depend. We look at it as if it was still moist. If it's a situation where if it was still moist, it could be all peeled off. I feel yavish consider as that. Then even if it's dry, then as long as it's in that consistency and in that amount, so it asers, and you have to take it off and destroy that chometz. Now, the next 4 lines we skip, and we come back to them on top of our base. As Mashbiach points out, they're repeated almost verbatim on the base. Okay, and Amud Aleph. So let's skip now to the line afterwards. Mao miato. What if you had more kazayis, but you made it less than a kazayis? You didn't take off the whole thing. You diminished it, so now there's less than a shiur. So what's the status in that case? Batel. Do I say it's batel? Or mikayim on shenira levayer, or since at one point you had to take it away, so by school you have to eradicate the whole thing and not leave anything left. Now, continuing along this vein, at eichon. How much is considered to be connected vis-a-vis the halacha of connection? Savri Meimar, they wanted to say, ad ruba shel areva. It connects until as long as there's the kazayis is on less than a majority of the keli, so it's still considered to be connected. The moment it expands over more than the majority of the keli, it's so What's the word?
Spread out.
So yeah, the opposite of dense. Diffuse. And so diffuse, so then at that point it's considered to be bata. So ma. What's the status like this? Mi'et ruba shel areva. If it's less than the rove of the areva. Now, it's hard to know exactly how to read this line that it fits in, but the bottom line is that you diminish the density, so it's no longer that dense that the gazayas takes up to a rove of the areva, but rather somehow the gazayas is more spread out. Okay, instead of taking some off, you diminish the density of it. So what's halach in that case?
Surface.
You increase the surface area, that's right, but diminish. So that's the question, because by increasing the surface area, you made it less dense.
Right.
You made it more diffuse. Is that the same thing as taking off some and making it less than the gazayas?
It's the same volume. It's just in a different proportion.
That's true, but we understand just now we've established a ground rule that has to be a specific, specific density throughout the mixing bowl, and you diminish that density, right? So since at one time it was not dense, school you have to eradicate the whole thing, and this question is not resolved. Neither of these questions are resolved. Of course, you knew that was coming, right? Now, we put over here what it says back there because it's more or less the same thing. So I'm going to go back to where it says Rabbi Yirmiyah. You see, it's almost the same thing. Rabbi Yirmiyah b'shem Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Yirmiyah named Rabbi Zira said, Shnei chatzoi zeis misoch habayis. They're not inside the mixing bowl. They're in the house, right? Two halves zeisim. So ain't habayis mitzarif. The house is not joined together. But so if they're in a vessel together, then hakli mitzarif. Then the vessel joins them together. So even if they're not connected, the fact that they have two chatzoi zeisim in the same keli, that puts them together. As the Gemara, how can you say this? But then we learn pachas mikan bata b'miut. Then we learn what should spread on the keli. So it's negated. And certainly, if they're not connected at all, right? That's where you can peel them all together if they're moist. Here they're not connected. There's one chatzi zayis over here and one chatzi zayis over there. How can you possibly say they connect? That they're considered as one to form a kazayis? There's no connection between the two of them even. Right? You're saying that the bowl connects them. Before we said at least have to be able to peel them together, right? So there's a more very interesting distinction. Where they're adhering to the vessel, so they all have to be able to be peeled together. Right? Because then you couldn't combine them. And that's why we look at how they relate to each other, because they adhere to the vessel. But where they're not adhering to the vessel, you just have a chatzi's eyes plopped into the vessel over here, chatzi's eyes plopped into the vessel over there, so then you could always join them together by hand, right? So therefore, since that is the case, the vessel makes them as if they're one. They're not, again, where they're adhering, they all have to be able to be peeled together. But where they're not adhering, right, because they're just plopped in there. So then, even as long as they're in the same vessel, you have to eradicate them. You have to do a mitzvah beer. Okay? I went back. That's the part which is not here, which is over there. Okay? Now we continue from the third line over here, which is where the redundancy ends. We're going to quote from our Mishnah. Im hikbid olav chote tu l'tefila. Right? We said if you're makbid, you don't want it there. It's a barrier to tefillah. V'im lav eno chote tu l'tefila. Says more initially, he tefillah, he azoy. The same parameters that apply to tefillah apply to sprinkling por aduma ashes. Eno chibur l'tuma. Now, the dough doesn't transmit tuma to the bowl. Now everybody goes crazy. What does it mean? Eno chibur l'tuma. Why shouldn't it transmit tumor to the bowl? If it becomes part and parcel of the bowl, of course it transmits tumor to the bowl, right? It's part of it.
Depends if you could peel it or not.
What? Well, we're talking about a case where you're not makbid on it, right? We're saying not makbid, so it's not a chatzitza, but it's not a chibur l'tuma. So the Mashbiach is an amazing shot. Mashbiach says no, there was a mistake in the Yerushalmi. What it said was Eino ches lamed tes. Rashi Tevis. And what it really meant to say was Eino chatzitza l'tvila. since you're not makrin, you're going to leave it there, so it's not a chatzitza vis-a-vis tefillah. But somebody who interpreted the Rashi Tevis interpreted them wrong. Instead of chibur chatzitza l'tuma, which was what the ches lametes really meant, he interpreted it as eno chibur l'tuma, which of course makes no sense. It certainly should be a chibur l'tuma, right? Because again, the whole point is you want to be part and parcel of the vessel. So now, of course, it's mechuber to the vessel vis-a-vis tuma. Whatever's matami the dough is matami the vessel. Whatever's matami the vessel is matami the dough. So he just takes that line right out of there and says it's a mistake. It should be eno chatzitza l'tuma. Very creative. The Mecha Mayim, the Aruch HaShulchan, moves these words. He takes them off here, cuts and pastes, takes the words eno chibur l'tuma from over here, and puts them 3 lines down where it says before Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. That's how he solves the problem. Okay, so we'll learn that as we get there. So how do we know it's not a chatzitza vis-a-vis tuma? Minado, because it says our Mishnah wrote to bekuma hu kavi kareva. If you want it to remain, that's a reva. V'im lav, and even if you don't want it there, now I'm going to explain this the way Lieberman explains it. Everybody has difficulty with this. Even if you didn't want it to remain there, but you didn't care if it remained there, so it's still kigufa shal reva. It's still like that reva. Which is, if you want it there, certainly. And if you don't want it there, but you don't mind if it remains there, so then it becomes part and parcel of that reva, and therefore it's not a chatzitza vis-a-vis tuma. Okay? You can be vis-a-vis tefillah. You can be toivel it as is, right? Now, the Mecha Mayim throws in the words eino chibur l'tuma over here, right? That I'm sorry. Instead of eno chibur l'tuma, changes it. Also, it's not eno chibur l'tuma, aval chibur l'tuma. That it is a chibur l'tuma. In other words, he moves the words here, and instead of eno, he writes aval. Okay, because it is a chibur l'tuma. And what's the proof of that? Rabbi Shimon Lakish Amar. Rabbi Shimon Lakish says, "Kach shana Rabbi." This is what Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said. Tzoa shetachas hakisei. Now, I don't know if this is literally excrement, but it could just be garbage or refuse. But to me, let's learn like excrement. You have excrement which adheres to a chair, and you don't intend to remove it. You intend to remove it there. Chibur l'tuma. So it is a chibur l'tuma. Whatever touches the excrement is the time of the chair. Whatever is the time of the chair touches the time of the excrement, because it all becomes part and parcel of the same object here, which is consistent with what our Mishnah says, right? That's a chibur l'tuma. Chibur eno chatzitza l'tefillah. Rabbi Shimon Lakish, ve'eno chibur l'hazoya. However, as we learned momentarily, for sprinkling por aduma ashes is not like that. It's not a chibur. Sprinkling por aduma ashes on the chair, it doesn't work for the tzoa, and on the tzoa, it doesn't work for the chair. Of course, there's no reason to be matar the tzoa. Really, what it means to sprinkle on the excrement, it's not matar the chair. Why not? We'll see in a minute. Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Rabbi Shimon bar Kana said, Evar meduldo. If you have a limb of a person which is dangling down, or hanging onto a person's body by a thread, by a vein or an artery or whatever it is, but it's only hanging on just by a thread. It's permanent, they'll say, hanging, a nail which is hanging onto a person by a thread. This excrement under the chair. Vihido kiruya, that which holds a barrel together, like the bars, the hoops on a barrel. The kiruya, and that which you put into a barrel in order to weigh it down. So it sinks to the bottom of a well to draw up water. Rabbi Yosef Rabun Omar Af Kshus Shalikto. Even if you have the hops plant, which you cut and then it grew a little flower, I guess, where you cut it, it grows some sort of extension. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know exactly what the Messias is. Chibur l'tuma ve'eno chibur l'hazoya. So all these things are considered to be part and parcel of the object itself vis-a-vis tuma. If one becomes tamei, the other becomes tamei. But it's not a chibur vis-a-vis sprinkling the paraduma ashes, but sprinkling the paraduma ashes on the hoops is not matar the bile, and so on and so forth. Why is they not the same? Rabbi Law said, Ba'azoya ksiv, v'zo al ha'oel v'al kelim. You should sprinkle on the paraduma ashes on the 10, v'al kol kelim. What does that kol kelim mean? Say al kelim. What does the word kol come to teach? It's superfluous. It means v'al kol ha'mekaymin shebekli, all the essential parts of the keli. Essential parts means not the accessories. And all things we mentioned before are accessories. So in the accessory, if you sprinkle paraduma ashes on them, even though they seem to be part and parcel of the kli, but the accessory doesn't work. So another example, that would be a handle of a pot. It's an accessory to the pot, even though it's mechuber to the pot. Hazoya is different parameters. You have to sprinkle on the thing which is the actual pot itself. Okay? However, vis-a-vis tuma, B'ramacha lachem, it says the kol shu l'tzorach lachem. It says tmei miyu lachem, means everything which is for you, meaning anything which is a useful accessory of the object becomes tummy with the object, and if it becomes tummy, it's the tummy of the object. So the fascinating thing, the process of becoming Torah from tumah is not the same, doesn't have the same promise as the process of becoming to tummy. That's what we're really saying here. Okay? Tamari, we said over there, getting back to Pesach issues. Tamari, we said over there, tractor. Now, nobody knows exactly what a tractor is, except for Lieberman, of course. And he says that tractor is like a bread box. He says that that's we'll tell you about stuff here to which no, I'm sorry. And this he says a plain, but sorry. On this plain Moshe says that Lieberman says the plain Moshe knew what he was talking about on this. Sorry, I made a mistake. I jumped the gun. So the plain Moshe says tractor is a type of donut, sufganiya. So try if you're making tractor on Pesach. So Hori Rabbi Yitzchak Mabed Chad should make one at a time. Trade class usher, but if you make 2 or 3 at a time, it's usher because the dough adheres to your hands when you're forming the donut, and it's going to become fermented over time. So it's usher. Eli and Shazag Yadim Mayim, unless you wash your hands between making each donut. You have to wash your hands between making each donut. Tani. Now, this Lieberman says only he understands what it is. Kibatios biratios. These are bread boxes. Kibat is like a container. Biratios, I assume, is the name of a place. Biras or something like that. So these bread boxes, so you have to check them because chametz might adhere to them, which is the topic of our Mishnah. Chametz which adheres to a vessel. Now, nobody knows again what this means except Lieberman. Lieberman says that this is from a Greek word, and he actually writes the Greek letters out, so I have no idea how to pronounce it. Which is the equivalent of a place where you keep your mixing bowls. So it's a cabinet where you keep the mixing bowls. You have to check over chametz. Okay, now getting back to the batzek hacheres in the Mishnah, cheresh, the silent batzek. Rabbi Yavo B'Shem Yavo said batzek shetzine. It's a cold batzek. It's cold. You cooled it down. So you don't know if it's fermenting or rising or not, so you have to compare it in age to another one. You have no other one there which became chametz at heichon. So to what point do you assume it hasn't yet become chametz? So it's best to compare. You can't compare and contrast. So whether you're going to determine if it's chametz or not. So Rabbi Yaakov Achon, Rabbi Yula, but the Kisorim B'Shem Rachina said hakdei hiluch arba mil. Dough does not rise until 72 minutes. Or depending on what you hold the shiur meal is 72 minutes, 90 minutes, or 96 minutes. So the Achorim say it's a tremendous kula. What do we hold the actual shiurs? 18, right? So it's a tremendous kula. And he brings down here the Gilin Hashaz, it should be Kedei Hiluch Mil, not Arba Milim. So Lieberman brings down the Meir. He says that maybe this is a story about a case where you didn't see any apparent signs of chimutz. It was where you checked it out and you looked at the dough and it looked like it was kosher v'yosher, so then you get up to 72 minutes. You only get up to 18 minutes where there's reason to suspect that it already has started rising. Okay? Next halach. How do you separate challah on tomei dough on yontif? So obviously dough is tomei, the challah is not suitable for kohen. So it's not, it becomes muktzah and set it aside and it's not, and bacon is not ochel nefesh. What do you do? Rabbi Lezer Omer lo tikol lo Hashem, the woman should not designate as challah ad shetiofeh. Let's bake everything and then designate it as challah. Rabbi Meser Omer Tati L'Tzon Ben Meser says you said to take off the challah before you bake because you're not allowed to bake it because it's not for you, it's for a kohen who can't even eat it. So it's going to become chametz if you leave it around because dough will ferment. So Tati L'Tzon you put in cold water which stops the fermentation process. Rabbi Yeshua says this is not the chametz which translates by ra by motzei. Why? The Gemara will explain. You leave it till you set it aside and you let it ferment until nightfall. Okay, says the Gemara. Masnisa Amish to tell you about when you came tummy after you kneaded the dough. That means you're ready was b'chayiv n'challah. Then our question is, what do you do? What's the chayiv n'challah? But it became tummy before you kneaded the dough. See, I said a kabin making it small measures, and you make it small measures each time a kab, so it's never going to become chayv and chal, and you avoid the whole headache. So maybe it became chayv tummy after it became chayv and chal. Uveshalosh b'yontav, and says Yerushalmi interesting zero, although I guess it's also it doesn't look like it's in Bavli, but it seems to be the Rapash Yerushalmi. Uveshalosha b'yontav, it's only if you need it on yontav. Avin losha b'erev yontav. If you need to do an erev yontav and you just left it over for yontav in order to take off the chal and yontav, that is not permissible. No. Kada the tiny, like we learned, halosh isa b'yontav. If you need a dough on yontav, marvish chalos b'yontav, you can take off the chal and yontav. Losha me'erev yontav. But if you need it from before yontav, v'shachach li'fri lafish chalosah, and you forgot to take off the chal, tough luck. Also, Tautu, you may not carry the entire dough. So a muksa, because you can't bake it because you didn't take off the challah. Ain't tzorich umar litoi man as goes without saying you can't take off the challah on yontav either. Now, says Yerushalmi, very interesting diuk. Ires lo amar elolash. It doesn't say here that when you were ores, meaning you put the water into the flour, it says you actually kneaded the dough. But we know you can already take off challah once you put the water and the flour together. You don't actually have to knead the dough in order to be chayv and challah. So it says lash. Why it say lash ha'ires lo? Why you have to wait to take off the challah until you need it? Why can't you take off the challah immediately once you put the water in contact with the flour? So it says Mar Rabbi Shmuel choy the Rabacha tipater beisa tmeya. This is specifically by a tamei dough. She'eno mafrish chalosa el basof. By a tamei dough, you only take off the challah at the end. I forgot why.
The end meaning when?
After you fully kneaded it.
Process.
Oh, I see. It's better always to take off the end because challah really has to do with the kneading, right? When you make reshis aris so seichem, aris really refers, even though the language we're using aris means when you put in the water, it really means when it's dough you're supposed to take off challah. When it's consistency. So why though is there a minute to take off challah immediately? Immediately when you put the water and dough together, the water and flour together. Really, even by Nisa Torah, you shouldn't take off the challah until the very end. Takona tiknuba, they made a takona by dough which is still tar. Shavishena tchila should take off the challah at the beginning. Shalotid masi, so that because maybe in the middle of your kneading the dough it'll become tummy somehow. So therefore they said take off the challah ASAP to prevent it becoming tummy. But really, even by challah Torah, the idea would be to wait to take off challah until the very end. When of course it's all tummy already anyway, so there's no point to do it at the beginning because what are you safeguarding? So there we default down to the preference, which is to take it off at the very end, and that's why Mishnah clearly indicates they take off here the challah at the end when you're lash it, after you already needed it. Okay, masdisa b'yontav shel Pesach. Now this brisa seems to be talking about yontav shel Pesach. In other words, when you made a dough erev yontav, you may not take challah off of it on Pesach. Sounds like it's a problem of becomes chametz. But if you made a dough, it sounds like you made a dough erev Shavuos or erev Sukkot, you can't take challah off on yontav. Says more no. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Bun, Rabbi Huna, b'shem Rabbi Acha said, "Afilu b'atzeres v'chag osir." Even if you made a dough on Shavuos or on Sukkot, you're not allowed to take the challah on erev Shavuos or erev Sukkot. You're not allowed to take off the challah on yontav. But why? Al shem kol melacha lo yaseh b'hem. It's part of the concept of malacha. Don't do any malacha on yontav, on any yontav that you could have done before yontav began. Okay? So that's really the issue here. Okay? Mabino Knivas Yerek. Why can you not take off the challah on Yontif, yet you can cut off bad leaves of vegetables on Yontif? Now here it says shel truma, but that's not necessary. The question is, if you can take off, if you can cut off bad vegetables, bad stalks of lettuce, bad leaves of lettuce from lettuce, why can't you take off truma challah? They both have to do with fixing up the food preparation. This is more very simple. Zuriya achila, lettuce. You can eat it, even if it's wilted and has bad stalks. So it's not misakin by taking off the bad ones. The stuff which is not chalad yet, you can't eat it. So therefore that looks like you're misakin. Rabbanan Gesar and Boyan. Rabbanan Gesar asked, the same idea. That's why I don't even bother answering the question. Boyan, ma b'nol barakitness beyond what's the difference between taking off challah and sifting beans on Shabbos, on Yontif? So the answer is obvious, of course, that sifting beans, the beans are suitable, right? Just you're making them more suitable. Supposed to challah before you take off challah. It's not suitable at all. Okay, Ketzad Yasser Rabbi Lezer. Now, according to Rabbi Lezer, who says that you take off the challah, you don't want to. So he said, what's the difference between this and sifting beans on Yontif? And obviously, the difference is the beans you can eat without sifting. It's just icing on the cake, icing on the beans. To sift them on Yontif makes them nicer, but they're suitable to eat. Challah is not. So Ketzad Yasser Rabbi Lezer. How do you do according to Lezer? According to Rabbi Lezer, you don't take up challah until it's all over, until it's already in the oven, right? So you do not do it at the beginning in order to avoid the chametz issue. So what do? Marim. You do this ruse. Vomri says, Zoni roitza lucho, Zoni roitza lecho. I want to eat this dough. No, I want to eat this dough. No, let me figure out later which one I want to eat. All of them I want to eat. So not going to designate any of them as challah. V'oifes kula. Now, then you bake all of them. Uksheroide, when you take them out of the oven, Marim, you also play a ruse. V'omer zuni wrote to the action, you say, this one I want to leave for later for the challah. Say, no, ani wrote to the action, this one I want to leave for challah. You keep on choosing different ones. You finally leave over one, but it's already baked, right? It's still, you didn't designate before, and you only designate after it's baked. Now, you're not burning kachim on Yontif. That's an interesting question. Very big machlokas here. Korban Eidah says, when you leave one over, you leave it over in the oven. And of course, you're burning it on Yontif. You're burning challah on Yontif, which is what we do when we bake. Every time we burn the challah. But you're doing mamash on Yontif. The Bnei Moshe, and then it's very cool, that's really the way the Bavli goes. The Bnei Moshe, though, changes. It says differently here. It says that, he says, you're not really burning it. You take them all out of the oven. And once they're out of the oven, you designate one as challah, and even in the bread, leave it in the bread basket to burn after Yontif is over. So that's the Gemara's question, aren't you like burning kachim Yontif? Not that you actually are, but figuratively speaking. By designating one as challah, aren't you as if you're burning a Yontif? So Korban Eidah is much more glot, because according to Korban Eidah, you actually leave it in the fire. So Rabbi Lezer says, Me'aleim and Yisraf, and they're burnt on their own. I'm not burning it, because I just left it in the fire, and I didn't bother removing it once it was baked, so that's okay. I'm not actually burning it. Amar lo, and Rabbi Lezer said it should be li Rabbi Yeshua. He said to Rabbi Yeshua, Lonim tzeis over by Ro by Motze. How can you say that this guy can leave over? Rabbi Yeshua said you take off the challah, and even if it comes chametz, it comes chametz. But it's by Ro by Motze. Why is by Ro by Motze? He doesn't own it. The Kohen owns it. Right? Kohen owns challah, but it's in his rishus. It's his achrayus, right? Challah is achrayus. He's responsible to make sure it gets to the Kohen. Responsible to make sure it gets burnt. So he transgresses by Ro by Motze, having it in his possession. They said mutzav lav or mitzvahs below tasei shlo bas lefonav. It's better to transgress the lo tasei, which shouldn't come from him. No, but shev al taisa. You didn't do anything, right? You just left it there after you designated as challah. You're passive. Mi mitzvah below tasei shabas lefonav, as opposed to lav, which you do be a daim, which is to burn challah on Pesach. It's true you only designated challah afterwards, and you left it in the oven afterwards, whatever you did. But you're doing something knowingly. You're making something challah and baking it on child Yontif, and then burning it, even according to the Korban Eidah, which is transgressing Yontif biyadayim. So it's better to do a transgress an outright lav, but passively by just leaving it there, than to go and transgress a lav actively with a ruse like you're suggesting.
Now, that may or may not become chametz if you leave it. I mean, it's possible.
That's true, but he doesn't take that into account, at least not yet. That it seems like he holds it's almost a psik ratio. Amar Pinchas says, "Asin il plugsa kilin plugsa." This mellow is like the other machlokas. The Tinyan Tamon we had over there. Hanitari Maton Achas. You have blood which should be sprinkled 4 times in the mizbeach, which got mixed up with blood which should be sprinkled 1 time in the mizbeach. So Rabbi Eliezer says you sprinkle them all 4 times. Rabbi Yeshua says sprinkle them all 1 time. So it's the same idea over there. Rabbi Eliezer says, how can you? Rabbi Eliezer says, Rabbi Eliezer, when it says over about Tigra, if you only sprinkle 1 time, you're going to transgress Baal Tigra. You're doing too few. Rabbi Yeshua said, when it says over about Tosif, you're at transgress Baal Tosif by doing more than 1 on the one which only supposed to be 1. So he said, Mutav la'avor al mitzvahs lo sa'aseh, mitzvahs lo sa'aseh shelo b'as lefonai. Same idea Rabbi Shua says there. It's better I should do 1 and not 4, because then I'm transgressing a lava bal tigra, but I'm doing it passively. Mitzvah lo sa'aseh shebas lefonai, that to sprinkle the one which should be sprinkled once, 4 times, when I'm doing bal tigra actively. So again, his same for there, that even though I'm transgressing something, when I do it passively, it's nish geferlach. Okay, we'll stop here for this evening, and we'll continue here tomorrow night.
It's one of your hyperlinks.
Yeah, it's a wild link to something else. But I think Bobby also made this link. If I recall correctly, it also made this link.